Welcome, 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 everyone, to another great podcast. Again, I'm looking forward to speaking to this wonderful lady. I'm very curious in what she does. Her name is Ana Elmhurst, and I know she's going to be highly interested. Welcome, Anneke. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very, very well. I'm looking forward to hearing about your neurodivergence and your business and what you do. So, what I'm going to do, because I have a habit of talking too much, I try to stop myself and then I allow you to say exactly what you do, your business, and then we'll go with the flow as we usually do.
Sure. So I am a coach. I work in sort of two main spheres. I work in the sphere of polyamorous relationships and I work in the sphere of neurodivergence. I belong to both of those spheres. I'm a polyamorous ADHDer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. So, what is a polyamorous? How do you pronounce it? I'm terrible for pronunciation.
So polyamory is just having multiple romantic relationships.
Okay. All right.
So like I have four partners. They all have other partners of their own,
Okay.
and we all just sort of operate on what's called a kitchen table model. So we all
Okay.
know each other. We all hang out together. My my boyfriend's wife is pregnant with twins, and I'm going to be the godmother.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm actually, listen, listeners, I wasn't expecting that. This is what happens when you don't do your background check and you do things wild and live. So, for the first time ever, I'm aghast. So, but we're going to look into this. Now, how did you get into this situation going down this road? So, just let us know. How did you get to this style of relationship? What happened? Go back in the days.
Oh, it's always been a little bit on my mind. Like I had a 3.5 year monogamous relationship out of college, but I always felt like there was something a little bit off, not even in a bad way, but like people would say, "Oh, aren't you jealous that he's hanging out with this female friend that has expressed interest with him?" And I'm like, "No, not really." I It always felt to me an incredibly natural style of relationship. And so I went to I was single, I was solo, I was living it up. I went to a party and I met this guy who was polyamorous, and we chatted. We had a great conversation. I saw him again a week later. We start dating, and for me it was a year of trying new and scary things.
Hmm.
And this turned out to be the best decision I've ever made in my life. Well, it's in the top two or three. Um,
Okay.
he introduced me to his existing partners and their partners and their partners. He introduced me to his friends who were in the polyamorous dating scene. And I just started developing this network of people. And to me, it just means that I get to organically connect with each person who enters my life
Hmm.
in the way that we are supposed to connect. So that might be romantic. It
Hmm.
might be we start leading a discussion group together. True story. It might be we become workout buddies. But it's just me allowing room for all of my connections to develop organically.
That's really interesting. So let's talk about your neurodivergence.
Mhm.
What neurodivergence do you have?
So I have I've been diagnosed with ADHD.
Uh-huh.
I've struggled with depression and anxiety and some PTSD. Um, I I don't have a formal diagnosis of autism,
Hmm.
mostly because I have not pursued it. I pursued a diagnosis of ADHD because you can get medicine for ADHD. I'm on Ritalin now, and it's doing an amazing job for me. But when I was in college and I learned about autism and all of the different areas that it affects and the way that it affects development, affects socializing, affects sensory processing, there was something in me that latched onto that immediately. And when this is the work that I want to do. And it took me an embarrassingly long time to realize it's probably because I identified so closely with everything that I was reading in the, in the academic sphere. So I decided I did my basic research, how does one work with autistic people? And behavior analysis came up as the thing to do. So I went ahead and I did some behavior analysis, and I fell out of love with it very, very quickly once I really entered the field. It was a struggle, honestly, to reconcile my beliefs about the inherent beauty of neurodivergence and the diversity of the lived human experience with what the field was telling me, which is, yes, that's all well and good, but now we need to make everybody be the same. So
I hear
it was,
I hear you. The thing is that I do believe we were all supposed to be different. Now, first of all, life would be boring. That's number one. But we all have our unique experiences. And if we have our unique experiences, then we will be unique in so many different ways. So to actually put us all in a box, I think is completely wrong in the first place. And I suppose, I don't know why I'm touching from this point, but religion in the past has put us, or tried to put us, in a box where we must be of a certain way, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But there are so many different religions, so many different social issues out there that we should be different. There is no one correct, right thing for everybody, right? So, for instance, I'm a Buddhist, but I don't think everybody else should be a Buddhist. Not everybody should be a Buddhist. You've got to find your way to find out what works for you, right? So I get you from the point of view. I don't believe in putting people in boxes. I do believe in people finding what resonates with them and doing what's right for them in their perspective own sphere, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that's what I get to do now with my clients, which is just everything that I love. I was taught in my master's program on behavior analysis, these are methods to interpret behaviors, to find out what's going on under the behaviors.
Okay.
And then in practice, it's here's how to make people behave a certain way, which I don't. I could no longer be a party to, essentially. But now I get to work with my clients and say, I hear you. A lot of what I hear is should. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And my question is always why? Why should you be doing that? And it all boils down to, well, somebody or something, usually some sort of societal pressure, told me I should do this. And my answer is to that, if it doesn't serve you, then you shouldn't do it. If it's not, if you're not hurting anybody, but you're being hurt by this constraining concept, you can let it go.
No, I hear you. One of my philosophies in life is this: I'm not bothered what anybody does. I do not have to agree with them. It's irrelevant. But as long as they don't affect an innocent person or a child, then it does not matter to me what they do. Because remember, what you think is not great today, with your changed experiences further down the line, you may think it's great in a few years' time. That's the change of experience when you're going through life, right? It's not for me to dictate whether this is right or this is wrong, as long as they're not affecting that innocent person. So, God, I must be getting. What's wrong with me today? I'm getting quite, quite deep. What's going on there, Anneke? So,
I occasionally have that effect.
yeah, I think you may do. So you do this with your clients. So essentially, what's the end goal with your clients? Why do they come to you? What's the reason? What they're trying to solve?
So that's, you know what, we're getting deep here. So I'll give you the real answer, because what they're trying to solve is never what they think they're trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
They come to me with a problem. They come to me with, I am struggling in my relationship, or I want to find a new relationship, or I'm having trouble at work. They come to me with discrete problems,
Mm-hmm.
but there's an underlying theme of all of those problems, and it's shame. There is something wrong with me, and I need to change myself, fix myself, and then I can be happy in my situation. And for me, the end goal is it might be that, yes, your job is bad and you need a new job. Or it might be you are using strategies tailored to a neurotypical person and you have ADHD and they don't work for you. So you need new strategies that can build on that. So there's never one end goal. And usually, honestly, the end goal changes quite a lot over the course of our work together.
Okay. So you're finding that your clients, who, is it right to say the majority of them are neurodivergent?
Mhm.
Right. So you're finding that your clients are quite dynamic. So you cannot place a blueprint, for instance, you straight over all of them. You have to take them as an individual and give them individual outcomes and inputs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Mm,
A lot of business coaches, for example, will give you packages, a 6-week package to a 6-figure income, or
mm, mhm.
something. And I don't currently offer packages because I haven't yet figured out it makes me hesitate a little bit, because there is no guaranteed outcome. There is no I I can't fix my clients because my clients don't need fixing.
Mm,
And it takes some people a little longer to get to that realization than
mhm,
others. So I I can say to them, like, look, here, I'm giving you this homework. Go away, read this book, listen to these podcasts, implement all of this, and then come back and tell me what happened. But that's not really me doing anything. That's my clients doing all of the work. They're the ones doing the reading and the listening and the readjusting in their brains.
mm.
A lot of my work is guidance within the session, and then setting up the framework for them to make small changes outside the session, and then report back and see how they went.
Mm. Okay, so let's go a bit back. Let's talk about your neurodivergence. Now, first of all, what is PTSD? PTSD. What is that? Because some people may not know what that is. Everyone talks about ADHD, autism, etc. But what is PTSD?
So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, and it was sort of popularized by the idea of soldiers coming back from war having seen and done dreadful things and being traumatized by it in ways that created ongoing problems in their life. But it can happen from less traumatic incidents than, the explicit violence of war. And it can even happen. There's a condition called CPTSD, which is complex PTSD, that can happen when someone is exposed to trauma over longer periods of time. So, such as like childhood abuse.
I hear you. So how did your one come about? If you take us from the beginnings of your PTSD, was that triggered?
So that was a couple of years ago. This is going to get deep, but I think we can all handle it. My girlfriend passed away. And it was very sudden and it was very traumatic. It was over Valentine's Day weekend. A partner and I were supposed to meet up with her and play D&D. She didn't show up. She wasn't answering her phone. We ended up driving to her house and we found her. And so it was, this is going to sound a little messed up based on what I just said, but I was incredibly lucky in the care I received afterwards.
Okay.
This was also during the height of COVID, so I wasn't seeing many people in person. I had my partner and I had my mom, and that was about it. But I also had an amazing, amazing therapist who was able to triage, essentially. And we worked together. We did this therapy called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, I think.
Okay.
I'm a massive nerd about it, so I'm actually not going to go into that. That's the ADHD hyperfixation. I'm going to avoid stepping on that particular landmine.
Okay.
But it was incredibly helpful in processing the grief and the associated beliefs that trauma can generate within a person.
All right. Okay. So you've explained that one. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to way back in the days where you first found out, even if it was as a child, when it comes to neurodivergent, when something wasn't quite right, whether your parents thought something was right, a friend, yourself, when did those beginnings start? When you thought something's not quite right, what's going on? What were those things that were happening in the background?
My mother knew pretty much from the get-go, but nobody believed her. Because I was very hyperactive as a toddler, running up and down the beach when all of the other kids were content to sit and build sandcastles. But then once I started talking, I started reading almost immediately. And I was actually informed recently about the idea of hyperlexia, which is very early onset reading, far above grade level, that can be accompanied by a lot of it's a very similar presentation as autism, but the difference between autism and hyperlexia is that you grow out of hyperlexia. The difficulties disappear after a few years. And so I went from the running back and forth on the beach to sitting still and reading. and reading and reading and reading and reading and could not stop.
Wow.
My mother would have to, she tells about I had my face buried in a book at one point. She's like, Anneke, like saying my name more and more and more, and resorting to like, do you want to go get ice cream? And nothing. And then she took my face in her hands, turned my face towards her and went, do you want to go get ice cream? I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. I wasn't ignoring her. I was just so zoomed in on this book.
Focused.
Nothing could break me out. It was that early ADHD hyper focus.
Yeah, well, I wish I had some of that hyper focus sometimes, I tell you.
It's a blessing and a curse. I can't tell you the number of times I have forgotten to eat.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
So hold on. So the focus can be so far intense that you forget to eat. Obviously, if that's the case, it affects your relationships massively because people are always thinking you're ignoring them and doing it on purpose. What other things does it affect your relationship with? So eating, ignoring other people, which you're not. What negative things does that come about when it comes to being hyper focused?
When it comes to the hyper focus, the hyper focus specifically, I should say, I can't always control when it comes and goes. So it would be wonderful if I could hyper focus on like writing blog posts or my marketing routine. But sometimes hyper focus says, what you want to do right now is embroider a sunflower on that jacket, and nothing is going to stop you from sitting there for 5 hours, emerging with like bloody pinpricks on your fingers from where you've accidentally stabbed yourself with a needle so many times.
Yeah.
My relationships, I'm very fortunate in that a lot of out of my partners, at least 3, probably 4, yeah, pretty much all of my partners are neurodivergent as well to some degree.
Okay.
So they tend to understand, or at least try to understand, which is incredibly helpful. I talk a lot, in case you hadn't noticed.
Okay.
I talk a lot, and it is really hard for people sometimes because when I'm hyper focused on a person,
Okay.
I'm very interested in that person. I get very intense, and
Okay.
that's hard for some people to handle. They want a little bit more space than that. We're not at that level yet. We're not ready for that yet. And then there's again, I'm not sure if this is an ADHD or an autism thing where I sometimes struggle with social cues. So I'll interpret something too literally, or I'll misread someone. Oftentimes I will, since I know I have trouble with social cues, I'll overcompensate. So if someone seems like they want to get out of a conversation, I'll just be like, okay, bye. Okay, you can go now. Whereas they were actually, distracted by a bug bite and really wanted to keep talking. So I've had people think that I didn't want to talk to them because I thought they didn't want to talk to me. So I pushed them away, thinking I was doing the right thing.
So it's a situation that you saw their body language and you thought the body language was saying, right, they're ready to go. And then you've interrupted them, or you've interrupted yourself in the middle of a sentence and just gone, goodbye.
Peace. Yeah.
Something out of a comedy. I can imagine how awkward that is.
It is. It's something else. I got what I call the diluted ADHD from my mother, who has the like really the very strong on the hyperactive, can't sit still for a movie, constantly going back and forth, struggles with impulse control, so she trips over things a lot. And it's very funny for people to meet my mother and then look at me and go, I understand you a lot more now.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right?
Mm-mm.
Not necessarily a bad thing, but at least now people have an insight of exactly, or partially at least, why you are the way you are. So it was a situation when you was growing up. You had a few issues going on with the hyper focus, amongst other things. What was the biggest issue before your mother or your parents decided you needed to be tested, or they started actually taking your mother seriously? Because your mother obviously had an inkling that there's something wasn't right, and everybody was thinking, "Oh, what's she talking about?" So, what actually was it in your behavior? Something happened for people to start taking your mother seriously with her belief. What was it?
I really hate to break it to you. I don't think they ever did. I wasn't diagnosed until I was an adult.
Oh, okay.
But what happened was, when I was 7, my dad passed away,
Mm,
and that gave me, as one might imagine, that
mm,
gave me a few issues that had to be dealt with. So I
of
did
course.
start going to therapy in, what year was that? At some point in high school, a few
Hmm.
years later.
Hmm.
um my my it was actually, I think it was my mother's boyfriend at the time, who looked at my hands, and I'm not going to show them to the camera because I'm still a little ashamed about this myself, but as an anxiety habit, I will pick at my fingers.
Hmm.
He looked at my hands and he looked at my mom and he went like, she's got to talk to someone. She's got to. And so my mom, and so with him validating my mom, she was
Hmm.
finally able to say, okay, we can get her into therapy. But I was a straight A student. I was valedictorian of my high school class.
Mm.
Nobody nobody would, from my high school, would believe me if I told them how much I had been struggling.
What, when you say struggling, are you talking about struggling with other the situation with your father and all of that, or are we talking struggling as in academically?
Any of it. And like, I it's a very weird chicken and egg situation. ADHDers have a higher risk of depression, anxiety, other mental health conditions.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I actually don't know if there's been research done on whether that's a causal relationship.
Hmm.
Having ADHD causes depression and anxiety because we're in a system that's not built for it, or if they're more biologically or chemically comorbid. Our brain chemistry is just set up to be like that. Um, so I would have days where I couldn't make myself start my homework until like 9 or 10 at night, and I had 5 hours of homework to do.
Hmm.
Um, there would be days when I would go to the computer lab during the 15-minute period at noon to to type up a page to hand in to the teacher, in an absolute panic. Senior year, I took a ridiculous class load, literally, that had never been attempted before. I took all of the highest level courses plus one. Um, and I ended up taking mental health days very frequently because I couldn't stomach the idea of going to school and having to sit still and focus for 6 hours or 8 hours straight.
My God. So there was a lot going on, without a doubt. So you're now much older, and we're getting to the stage that you in your business, you're there to help people, and neurodivergence, is it correct to say that was your main focus, to help them?
Mhm.
What At what stage did you think you wanted to take that path to do a business like that to help neurodivergence? What happened there to change your path to then focus on that?
I think it started in college with this idea of, oh, I can do behavior analysis because that helps people. And then I did behavior analysis and I realized it wasn't helping in the way that I wanted to help. It was a masking. It was glossing over the actual problems. So I ended up, my mom was actually a coach for a number of years when I was in high school. She coached executives and she coached widows because she had an MBA. So she was qualified to coach executives and she was a widow. So she figured she had something to offer there. And she suggested it to me when I was stuck in this crazy cyclical miasma of, I don't know what I want to do, but I can't do behavior analysis anymore. And she said, what about coaching? And I said, I couldn't possibly. And then I went to a course. I did my first course through CTI, the Coactive Training Institute. And I went, oh, this is everything that I've ever wanted to do. This is it. I found it. I finally found it. And it makes sense for me to focus on neurodivergence because I do have an education in it on the one hand, and I have the lived experience of it on the other hand. And on the third hand that I'll pull from somewhere, I don't think that there's a lot of people doing neurodivergence coaching in the way that I'm doing it. And I think what I have to offer is valuable. So it was a sort of a no-brainer when they were saying, to be a coach, you have to have a niche. And I was like, well, I want my niche to be neurodivergence. I want my niche to be me. I want to help people who've been in my position.
Definitely. And I totally resonate with it because that's a similar to what I do. Consulting just to help with technology to so people aren't overwhelmed, And I thought to myself, we get overwhelmed reasonably easy under certain circumstances. So I thought I'd use my technical skills and I'll help people to just manage their business by using technology. So I totally understand. I'm neurodivergent myself. Makes sense. I understand, people just like me. And I've been using technology for the last 35 years to get round the issues I have. Why not apply that and help somebody else? And you're doing similar thing. And it just makes sense. It's a passion that you have. You are the people you're trying to help. So you have this natural ability, and that's beautiful, to say the least. So when it comes to your business, what's your next step? What are you trying to do in the next stage of your business? Where are you trying to go with that?
Oh, so obviously at this stage, we know I have ADHD. So it seems natural that I would have far too many ideas. I have a friend who wants me to get on the speaking circuit. I have another friend who wants me to write a book. But I love working with people. I love talking to people. I love listening to people. That's the majority of my job, really, is listening. You wouldn't know it from how I'm behaving here, but so I think that what I want to start doing is connecting people, getting support groups together, getting all of these community resources into one place so that people can actually find them.
Great idea.
Yeah, I think that peer support is one of the most, especially for neurodivergent people, it's just one of the most valuable things out there. There's a wonderful YouTube channel, How to ADHD, that has taught me so incredibly much. And she's got a book out right now by the same name. And it's been really transformative for me in how I think about myself and my brain and the community at large. I think it's done a wonderful job of bringing people together, and I want to find a way to contribute to that.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. Maybe you can also do a mastermind. You know, get people together that you can help each other, blast out in the information, the issues that they have, and in turn, everyone brings something to the table. A mastermind is always effective for people like us, I tend to find. But anyway, that's just my sense. But listen, I want to say thank you, Anneke, for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate your time. Is there anything you want to say to the listeners that we may have missed?
I feel like we were comprehensive, but at the same time, I want to say your shame is lying to you. Your fear is lying to you. If you remember that, you'll be able to move forward much more easily into whatever it is that you want to do.
And that's very, very powerful. As we already know in life, is fear tends to hold us back in a massive way. And I think everybody can resonate with that. And shame, now that's a new one. Shame is lying to you. You hear that, listeners? Maybe that resonates with you, and maybe that can help you from that point of view. Maybe have a think, and maybe that could help you. In the meantime, Anneke, thank you very much. And how can people get hold of you if they need to?
Sure. I'm on Instagram as allforlovecoaching.com or allforlovecoaching. And I have two websites, allforlovecoaching.com and Anneke-Elmhurst.com. So that's ANNEKE-ELMHIRST.com.
And listeners, what I'll do is I'll give all that information down below so you can contact her very easily. And if you want to just ask her a few questions or take things further, you know how to do that. In the meantime, Anneke, thank you for your time. We really do appreciate you. And listeners, we'll listen to you and we'll talk to you very soon. And sayonara.
Bye.